Is it possible to be happy when everything seems to be going wrong? Could be that somebody cut you off in traffic, you're arguing with a coworker, you're having some money woes, your spouse is annoying you, you're dealing with aging parents and their health issues, maybe you're having your own health issues, car broke down. The list is endless. And today we're going to talk about how to be happy almost instantly by making some changes. In fact, I want to share a story with you. And if you don't want to listen to the story, I'll put a timestamp in. But this is my personal story. You know, they say that you learn a lot from your biggest struggles. And one of those biggest struggles for me was when my mom passed away. And she had breast cancer. She had been fighting it for about 7 years. And it got to the point where it came back full on. They told me that she was going to need hospice care. And my daughter and I flew back east to be with her and my dad for the next few weeks so that we could just spend some time with them. Little did I know at the time that she would pass away while I was there. And once I got there, we really saw a rapid decline. She was getting around, and it was such a trying time for my whole family. And watching someone that you love slip through your fingers, that I really feel like I learned so much from this and learned how to find happiness while being surrounded with all of the sadness that I could experience. And one of the things that I did, now it's going to sound silly, but we got to the point where we had to put the hospital bed in the living room. And it was actually my mom's favorite room in the house. It was bright and sunny. This was springtime, so the sun was always shining. We had fresh flowers from her garden that we'd bring in all the time so that she could look at them. And I was her round the clock caregiver. So I was completely exhausted. And like I said, dealing with losing her and watching my dad struggle and knowing that he was going to be losing his wife, that it was a mental weight. But the one thing I did that really brought me joy in this time was puzzles. Now, puzzles were one of my mom's favorite activities. She would always have a table set up in one corner of the living room in her favorite chair, and she'd have a puzzle going, and my dad would go in the other room in the den and he'd watch TV at night. She'd do her puzzles, and we'd always have to come in and see what her puzzles were when they were completed. And sometimes there was one time she made this huge clock puzzle and she glued it all together. And my dad went and got a clock face for it. And it still hangs in their den today. So she has so many great memories. So I went down to the basement, I grabbed some of her puzzles, and I brought them up and I just did puzzles. It was quiet at their house. We had to keep things nice and relaxed so that my mom was able to sleep, but I was there next to her in case she needed anything. So I set up her card table and I just did puzzles. And I thought of her while I was doing them, and I still do them now. I thought of her while I was doing them and all of the fun times we've had doing puzzles together. And it really brought joy in a time that was really awful and really trying in my life. And now that I've gotten through that, it really allows me to think of those times and think, okay, what can I find joy in this point of my life? Something might be going wrong, but where can I find the joy? And what can I do to get through this crisis? Because there's always a crisis of some sort, no matter what. Don't want to go around your life being unhappy. You can find happiness in anything. So that was my story, and thanks for listening to it. But let's talk about how you can find happiness through all of these life challenges. Whether they're big or small, they're important to you. And just so you know, I still do puzzles all the time. In fact, everyone's like, how do you do these puzzles so fast? I just love to do them, and I look at them. I'll keep one set up on one side of my dining room table, and if I need a little break in my day, I'm doing all this work, But if I need a little break, I'll go take a little puzzle break, put in a few pieces, go back to what I was doing, maybe unload the dishwasher or do some work on my computer, um, or film a video like this one. And then I'll go take a little puzzle break and enjoy that for a bit. And thinking of all these crises that we deal with, one of my favorite quotes is from Dolly Parton. And it is, the way I see it, you've got to put up with the rain if you want to see a rainbow. And I think that is such a great quote. In fact, I've put together a list of 50 quotes that you can, on happiness, that you can go and download. I'll put a link here and in the description below. You can go get that. It's a free printable if you need some happiness quotes to just as little reminders to have some joy in your life. So let's talk about happiness and what we can do. There's so many quick and easy things that you can do to start being happy right now, this instant, no matter what is going on in your life. And I've broken them down into little sections so that they're easier for the ideas to come to you. So let's get into them. The first one is to cultivate a positive mindset. It's so easy to get negative and get down on things and who did you wrong and who screwed who over. I mean, you could easily come up with a long list. All of us can. But if you take that out of your mind and you focus on something positive, it will really change your whole mindset. So the first thing I want to talk about is practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude is really like planting a seed of joy in your mind. Because when you acknowledge and you appreciate the things that you have, you live in abundance rather than scarcity. And what a way to live. Instead of complaining that nothing's happening right or feeling negative, if you just turned all that around and thought, okay, all this negative's going on, but what's one little thing that's good that I can, maybe you have a little plant on your windowsill of your kitchen that you water every day and you care for. Maybe that's what you're grateful for. It doesn't have to be anything big. We cured world hunger. It can be the smallest little thing in your daily life that brings you joy, that you're grateful for. And make note of that and pay attention to those things. And you can do this by starting a daily gratitude journal. I've had one for a very long time. They've helped me through lots of tough times. And it really turns around your mindset. As much as I want to sit there and say, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened. If I start and end my day with writing down 2 or 3 things that I am grateful for at that moment, it really changes how I go to sleep and how I wake up in the morning. And they can be the most trivial things. Like, oh, thank God I remembered to buy toothpaste because we were really down on the last little bit. Or, the craziest little things that you can think of that bring you joy. And they might seem silly and trivial, but those are really the things that add up that change your mindset. And the other thing this gratitude journal is going to do is it will actually increase your feelings of happiness and de-stress you at the same time. I mean, how can you be angry when you're feeling joyful about something? It's kind of impossible. So think of it that way. Like, I'm only going to focus on these good things. Like, oh, I cleaned my sink today. If you've ever seen The Fly Lady, it's always about cleaning the sink. You start with that, especially when life feels overwhelming. Start with a clean sink, and maybe that's all you have to be joyful for, is that clean sink. But you have one thing. And then the next day, maybe you have 2 things. And the day after that, maybe you have 3 things. And you just keep building on these little life moments that will bring you joy, and focus on those rather than the negative. And I do have some journals that I really love that are gratitude journals. I love the gratitude journal. It's a 5 minutes a day for more happiness. And I will link to all of these in the description. I also like this one. That's the Daily Gratitude Journal for Women, and this Gratitude Sidekick by Habit Nest. Those are 3 really great options. You can check those out. Or you can just use a plain old journal, piece of paper, notepad, and write it down. You could even use your phone. I think there's even some apps, gratitude apps, that you can get and put what you're grateful for on your phone. And on that same vein of cultivating a positive mindset, let's talk about a growth mindset. so that we're not staying stagnant. And with a growth mindset, you really believe that dedication and hard work can really develop your abilities and your intelligence. And it's a really good thing to have. Those tools are essential to have when you're dealing with all of the problems that come on in life, because it just helps you realize that you can deal with just about anything. And instead of looking at challenges that you have as a negative, change your thinking around to, all right, this is something we're going to do. This is an obstacle. Pretend it's an obstacle course and you've got to get through it. You wouldn't say, I'm not going to do it. No, you're going to get through that obstacle course. So think of whatever that challenge is the same way. You're going to dive in, look at it as a challenge, and get through it. And then at the end, you will have that positive feel that it's just another thing that you've been able to accomplish. And on growth mindset, continue learning. At our age, over 50, we think, okay, I've learned pretty much everything there is to know. I don't need to learn something new. There are so many awesome activities out there, new hobbies to enjoy, new pursuits that you can have. And you don't have to be a certain age. It's never too late to start something and enjoy it later in your life. So what new skills can you acquire? New books can you read? Or hobbies can you try? In fact, there's a book by Carol Dweck, and it's called Mindset, The New Philosophy of Success. And I will put a link to that in the description for you if you're interested. And it offers a lot of really great insights into developing a growth mindset. The next thing I want to talk about is developing some self-compassion. And I know this is something I really had to make changes in my life too. And it's all about how we talk to ourselves. And it's so easy for us if you ever wrote down what your head is saying about you, it's usually not very nice. So what is going on in your head that you're saying that's negative? You might be nice to everybody else. Everyone who meets you is like, she's just delightful, the loveliest person. Yet you're walking around beating yourself up in your head. And like I said, I was there. I did that. And changing that dialogue around. And how do you do that? Start by just standing in the mirror. They call it mirror work. Stand in the mirror and just compliment yourself. And the more you do that, the more you will feel good about yourself, and you will see that negativity leaving your brain. And let's say, okay, you do the dishes. Good job, Nancy, you did the dishes. Good job. Or sometimes I will thank my previous self. I'll be like, oh, you remembered to put that in the fridge. Good job. Because sometimes I'll go in the fridge. I love sparkling water, but I will put that in. Sometimes I'll put a few in the fridge and I'll open the fridge and I'll be like, oh gosh, thank you, old Nancy, for doing that for me. Because the future me right now is so appreciative to have that. And it's just like, okay, I just gave myself like a little cheerleader rah-rah and gave myself a pat on the back. Well, instantly, even telling you this story, I feel so good by telling you that. So just give yourself a pat on the back all day long for whatever you do, and change that self-talk into good things. And also think about caring for yourself. We spend so much time as women, and a lot of us mothers and caregivers and co-workers, we are taking care of everybody else except ourselves. And if we spend time taking care of ourselves and giving ourselves the care that we give to everyone else, we're going to be so much happier for doing that. Exercise. I don't know if you remember the movie Legally Blonde, where Elle Woods solves the crime when she realizes the woman that was on trial is a workout queen and she has endorphins, and happy people don't kill people. Remember, if you remember that, put that in the comments below. It was one of my favorite scenes, but she solved the crime on that. And that is true. They've actually done studies. It proves that you get endorphins, you get a little dopamine hit. You're much happier when you are getting the exercise that you need. So it doesn't even have to be high impact, lots of huge workout. A 15-minute walk once or twice a day can make a huge difference in your life. And change it up. Maybe you don't like walking. Maybe you like biking, or you like yoga because the stretching feels so good, or Pilates. Find those activities that make you feel good and do them a little bit a few times a week, and you will really reap the benefits. And the next one I want to talk about is the foods that we eat. You think while you're chowing down on that bag of cheese curls that you are so happy. I mean, I am cheese curls. Ooh. I could down a lot of cheese curls, and I'm so happy while I'm doing it. But in the long run, those foods are not really making you feel better. It might feel good while it's going in your mouth, or a piece of cake, sweets. I don't know what your go-to is. But if you choose some healthier options, and it doesn't mean you can't occasionally enjoy a treat, but if you go with choosing healthier options for almost all of your food choices, you will feel so much better. You'll have more energy for your workouts that you're doing, and you can be mindful when you're cooking and when you're eating that food. You know, I've talked about HelloFresh before, but I actually use the HelloFresh meals. And one of my favorite things about them is that I love the process of standing in the kitchen. It's like my quiet time. It's like my 45 minutes of quiet time in the day where I'm just focused on making that recipe. They have a big recipe card that you follow along. Everything you need is there. I'm just standing there chopping my vegetables, cleaning everything, following the directions. I don't think of anything else at all. No problems are happening in my life when I am cooking these meals. And it's because I'm being mindful. I'm totally focused in the present. I'm totally focused on what is going on getting that recipe all to come out perfectly so that everything is finished at the right time. And it's really one of my most joyful times in my day because I'm present. I am in the moment and I'm really enjoying what that's all about. So not only is food helpful in that way from a preparation standpoint, but then I get to enjoy the delicious meal. You know, savor. Don't just sit in front of the TV and eat. Savor that meal that you've prepared or purchased if you're out at a restaurant or got it to go, and enjoy the meal. And don't forget about hydration. I don't want to sound like a mom nitpicker, but a lot of times if you get a headache and you're wondering why, drink some water. A lot of it is hydration. And so make sure you keep your hydration up because that will also help you feel better and happier. And the next section I want to talk about on happiness is building strong friendships and connections. And this comes from not only nurturing friendships that we already have, but also developing new friendships and even having those small conversations throughout the day. You know, you might go run into a convenience store and the guy that's ringing you up is like, how are you doing today? Oh, you're getting this. Okay. All right. See you again tomorrow or see you next week. That little interaction or connection can really just, it becomes part of your routine, and you tend to look forward to those little conversations. Sometimes it's about the weather or, you know, just inconsequential things. But to me, those are things that really make you feel good throughout your day when you're having these little conversations. And the more positive and upbeat you can be in them, the more you're going to brighten not only your own day, but everyone else's day around you. Another way you can quickly build happiness is by volunteering and giving back. Nothing feels better than donating your time, your energy, maybe your clothing to other people who are really in need, and giving back is such a good way to do that. It helps you feel fulfilled and gives you purpose, and it has been known to help enhance your overall happiness and sense of connectedness with your community. So go look for volunteering opportunities and think of what your skills are that you could share with others. And through those, you will experience the joy of giving, and you'll also know that what you're doing is enhancing the lives of other people. Now, I don't know if you know this about me. I actually have another channel. It's a knitting channel. You can check it out here. I'll put a link to it. There's nothing like teaching someone how to knit and giving them the skill that they didn't have. And you can do that through so much. You could do it through helping someone learn how to read. You've been here a long time, over 50 years. So what are some of the skills that you have that you could pass on to somebody else and not do it for them, but teach them how to do that so that they are empowered and you not only will feel so good, but you've passed on your skills to someone else. And you can also follow your passions. Like we touched a little bit on hobbies and things like that, but there's something to be said for engaging in these activities because not only are they really bringing out the true you, you can get together with like-minded people and talk about that. Like one of the things I love about knitting is that if I could be in an airport knitting and somebody will see me and they'll be like, "Oh, what are you knitting? How do you do that? Oh, my grandmother used to knit." It brings up so many conversations. I'm actually in a knitting group and I love getting together. It's about 15 to 20 people. Sometimes it's a big group, sometimes it's a small group, but you get to know them on a common interest. And it's always fun because you get to find out what other people are making or talk about how difficult a project was or how easy a project was or who they're making it for. I mean, it really, you can see my excitement just telling you about it. So think about those things. What brings you joy and what you could do to share that with others, whether it's in an online community or in person. And, check out your local library because a lot of those, or even local churches, will have little communities that you can get in on all kinds of topics. And there's even a thing called Meetup, a website. I'll put a resource to that. And you can go and meet other people. I went on one time that was on photography, and there were about 40 of us that went all around Chinatown in San Francisco and took pictures. And then we got together afterwards. We had some appetizers and drinks, and we shared pictures. And it was really fun to see everybody was walking through the exact same place, all about the same time, and how many different types of photos came out of that because we all see the world a little differently. So what kind of activities like that could you do? I hope this is spurring some ideas for you. And if you're thinking of anything, put that in the comments below. And you can see, I am like happy as can be telling you about these things right now because they are things that I really enjoy doing that bring me joy and happiness and make me feel fulfilled. So what are those things that you could do? And also, let's talk about travel. That's another thing, or just exploring. Even if you can't travel, you might be bound to being closer to home because you've got relatives you're caring for, or maybe health issues, or work, or kids that you just can't drop everything and decide you're going to travel. But when is the last time you explored your local museums or nature or history? Dive into some of those things. And if you have the ability to travel, it's only going to expand your knowledge, bring you new joys and new discoveries. And it's just a great way to share with others and feel like you're connected with the world. And let's also talk about mindfulness and meditation. I think this is one of the biggest things people think about when they're thinking about happiness. It's mindfulness and meditation. And there's a reason for that because these are two really quick and easy ways to be happy. Be mindful and spend a little time in the present meditating. And it doesn't mean that you have to sit there and do some breathing exercises when you're meditating. You could just be brushing your teeth or going for a walk where you're just being present, focusing on the things that are around you. If you're brushing your teeth, think about you're mentally just brushing each and every tooth, and you're thinking about what that looks like in your mouth, what the bubbles are doing. If you're not thinking about anything else when you're thinking about how you're brushing those teeth, right? Try that right now. Give that a try. Just imagine that. Same thing with going for a walk. If you're just paying attention to not ruminating on thoughts, but just paying attention to every step and what you're seeing and what's going on around you, just in that moment, being present, being mindful will bring you so much joy. And as for meditation, you can start with just small, simple, short sessions. It does not need to be an hour or 2 hours meditating. You can start with just a minute or 2 minutes. I actually have on my watch. I get a little mindfulness app that pops up every day, and it gives me like literally like 1 minute of meditation. And this little flower will pop up and it will tell me to take a breath at every time the flower gets bigger, and then it gets smaller and then bigger. I have to take a breath, but then it's done, and it's like, oh, I feel so refreshed and happy with that 1 minute of mindfulness where I wasn't thinking of anything else but my breath. That's a great way to start. And you can use, there's actually apps in addition to like what I have on my watch. There's apps like Headspace or Calm that will really help you focus on meditating and being mindful and just calming your brain. I am so happy you allowed me to share this unique video and share such an important part of my life with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch that. And if you have a journey or challenge that you're going through, feel free to share it in the comments. I love hearing from you, and I'll see you in the next video.